Okay, top 3 ways to rig up a live bait. Okay, I've taken so many people fishing over the years, and every time, or 98% of the time, people put live baits on wrong. Depending on where you're fishing, there's a couple of different ways you can do this. And usually when I take them offshore and we're fishing, I'll catch fish or hook fish and they're not, they're wondering why, and I'll bring back either a fish or no bait, just been pinched, and I'll bring back theirs and usually they're dead and curled and wonder why. Like that. So let's get into it, guys. I'm just going to do, there's more ways to do live bait than these 3, but these are my top 3 and I'll explain why as we go along. Okay, so the first one is if you say you're offshore fishing or in the rivers and a lot of current. This is like when you're in quite a bit of current, okay, and you got some live baits, you want to put them down for a cobia or a G-fish or maybe even a mackerel or whatever you're doing. You want to drop them down, there's a bit of current running. Well, the way I do it, the simplest way is usually with snelled hooks. So what we're going to do here is just snelled hooks. With snelled hooks I always use when I'm fishing a current, okay? And the way I do it is your top hook here, okay? Not the bottom hook, not the one you tied on at the end, not that one, but your top hook. That's the one that goes through the nose of the bait, okay? So up here through the nose. So usually put that through the nose like so. Like, okay, understand that? And then with your bottom hook here, you got to look. When we're using I always use octopus hooks too, by the way, for rigging up live baits. An octopus, if you notice, are offset. You'll see them curl and kick out to one side a little bit. With this bottom hook, which is tied on end, okay, the bottom hook, this is the one I'll stick a piece in the tail. But have a look at which way the offset's kicking. Right? You can just put it through the top, just pierce it under his fin at the top there. That's fine. You can do that if you like. Okay, what I'm going to suggest, guys, is when you do it, you lay your hook down and you'll see your point. If you do it properly, the point will actually kick up and out away from the flesh. I do see a lot of guys going through like across the side and coming back through the other side, like this, which is okay. It looks, you can do that, but if you notice there, the hook now, the offset is actually digging back into the fish and putting into his scales. And more than likely you're going to miss the strike from that hook, okay? So when you put your bottom hook in, there's 2 different ways I do it. It's like, look at the way the offset's kicking. So when you put it through just under his, at the top there, you see the point of the hook is actually kicking out and away from the flesh. So you don't miss a strike there, okay? But the way I mainly like to do it is I like to just pierce under his skin down the back. So I just like to, just lightly under the skin, don't hit the backbone or anything, just under the skin, very lightly, and pull the hook through, and I have my hook sitting like so. I like my hooks like so. So when I rig up a live bait, I've got one facing this way, as you can see, and this one's facing, I've got 2 facing opposite ways. And the reason I do this in current is when you drop it down, like this is one of the rigs I use offshore. I have the sinker sitting straight on top of the hook and the bead. You drop him down, slow control drop down near the bottom. This is especially really good for G-fish and cobia. Okay, fishing like this, you drop him down, and when he's down on the boat, you put the rod and rod holder, sinker's sitting there, held up by the rod, just off the bottom. The live is just going to sit there, the current's going this way, he's just going to sit there for hours, just kicking into the current like so. He's not going to drown, he's not going to twist, he's going to sit there like so, just swimming away, happy as Larry. Apart from having a couple of hooks in. Okay? What guys I take out, I see you do a lot, and I'm going to say don't do this, okay? There's for some reason, I don't know why, but they put it on backwards. Okay? So what they do is they put the tail up the top one, like so, and usually they have the hook going through the wrong way, so it's picking back into the fish. And then they have that bottom hook down here through his nose or eyes or wherever they pierce them, and they put it down that way. And the problem with that is he's down there, he's trying to swim away with the current, like the current's still going that way, He's trying to swim with the current, he can't go too far, he gets really tired, basically he drowns. The current's pushing this way, he just drowns. And what happens when he drowns? He gets a slight twist in him, like a slight bend as he dies, goes a rigor mortis, gets a slight bend, and then he just starts twisting in the current. No strikes, nothing. And that's why I get a lot of the fish and strikes, and the guys I take don't. Okay? So don't put them on backwards, especially in current. Okay? So I'll get rid of that one. Okay. So, yeah, and doing it that way too, guys, you can do it with a few rigs. Like I said, I've got that rig there. That's one of them you've seen it time and time again for jewies and cobia and stuff I use. It's a sinker straight on top of the hook, and you'll just sit that way and swim in the current like so. You can always bait up that. You can bait up that way too. With, say, your paternoster. Say you've got your paternoster. I made a quick one here. You've got the sinker there, your dropper there. Same deal. If you're chasing like big red snapper and stuff, you got your gang hooks, your snelled hooks here. But pierce the nose through the top one, the one with the snell on it. Okay, and the bottom one you've tied on, that goes through the tail. That way, when you drop him down, he's just going to sit there in the current, swimming as happy as Larry. Current's going that way, he's just going to swim happy as Larry. Don't put him on backwards and drown him. Okay, so it works on a paternoster rig. Works when you float line, you like this sort of rig as well, but a very small sinker, and let it float down. It works well for that too. Okay. The next one we'll talk about, this is number 2. Okay, second way to rig them up. This one I see a lot of guys doing too, but they do use it in current. And I don't know why in current, because once again, the current's coming from the back of the fish, he's trying to swim away. He's getting worn out, he's getting tired, he actually drowns. Goes a rigger, starts getting a curl in him, just twist. No strikes. And what I'm talking about, we've just got a single hook here. This time we're just going to use a single, right? And a lot of guys just, once again, just lightly pierce under the tail, down there. That's a great place to put hooks for liveys, but not in current. The currents, say, like you cast out, the current's going this way that time, say it's going out. Okay, you got a sinker or whatever on the bottom, or is free swimming from the boat or jetty or wherever you're fishing. He goes with the current. Line pulls tight, he's trying to swim, he's just gonna, you get with the current's always pulling him, he's just gonna get tired, drowned, get a slight bend in him, bit of rigor, and then he's just gonna twist. Okay? This is a great rig for a couple of things. When you're fishing, say, no current areas, or you're fishing a tide change and there's no current, or you want to fish for jewies or something in the river, this rig will work really well. While there's little or no current, very little or no current, it works really well for big barren stuff like impoundment fish, for barren, impoundments where there's no current. Okay. And the other place I have used this, and I've done a video a few months ago and people liked it, it is fishing a current. This is a little tricky, this one, but rigging this way, dropping these fish at the back of the boat when you're out fishing fads, and you put your reel in free spool and you let the liveys go. Okay, and he's more natural this way, especially out wide in current when you're chasing dolphin fish. He's more natural this way. If you have to stop him and wind him back, you're pulling him back through the water, he's probably going to drown, his tail's bent, and he's hard to wind back in. That's the downside of this. But when you're chasing dolphin fish out around fads, and you know they're there, they very rarely come back anyway, they usually get pinched. But if you put them this way, and the whole idea of rigging this way too, guys, if you haven't thought about it, is when you hook a fish this way, he's trying to swim away from what's pulling him backwards. It's natural for him to swim away. So if you're standing on the boat and the fad's down there, you drop him out the back of the boat, he's going to head straight for the fads. He's trying to get away from what's pulling him. Just let him in free spool, let him go. Okay? He's not going to swim back to the boat or around. His natural instincts, this thing's pulling him, he's trying to get away from me. He swims that way, he just goes. And the beauty of this thing is too, like in you're fishing in dams or rivers on a tide change, or in dams where there's no current. You got a running sinker rig. Say you got a running sinker rig. So you got a swivel here with a sinker. You know what that is? The sinker's sitting on the bottom here. Cast out, he goes down to the bottom. The sinker's on the bottom. This little fella's up swimming away off the bottom, swimming around away from the sinker. Okay, in a good strike zone. just trying to get away from the sinker that's holding him down. But you're quite happy swimming like that for hours, just trying to pull away from the sinker. But there's no current. He's not fighting any current, so he'll kick for quite a long time. And he swims away from the sinker. Okay, so the sinker's on the bottom, he'll be up off the bottom, away from the mud and the sand, swimming around quite happy. So that really works quite well for that too. And in rivers, when you're chasing jewies and stuff over a tide change, same deal. Sinker's in the sand, he'll be up above the sand, swimming around in the strike zone. Okay? So that's a good one as well, but no current, or very, very, very little current. And yeah, if you're fishing dolphin fish in the fads and you're drifting past, there's quite a bit of current. This works well too. You swim away from the boat and watch pulling straight into the dolphin, towards the dolphin fish, towards the fad. And 9 times out of 10 he gets eaten anyway, so you don't have to wind him back in. But if he doesn't get eaten, you do have to wind him back in. He's going to bend. He's hard to pull back in, and more than likely he'll probably drown. So you've got to put a fresh livey on doing that method of fads. So take a few. Okay. So there's number 2. Okay, and the last one, and this is the most common one. For some reason, most people hook live baits this way, and it is a good way under certain circumstances. But fishing in current, and if you've got like a running sinker rig and you've got him to the bottom, yeah, not so much. Okay, the last one is, see if you guess, you should know. Once again, we're going back to a single hook, but people through the back, in the middle of the back, under the dorsal fin there, lightly pierce under the dorsal fin. That's the first way I got tried out of rig live baits. It is a very good way, but it's got to be used in the right circumstances. And once again, look at the offset of your hook. So you can see this one, the hook's going away from the flesh. If I go back through the other way and pull it down, I don't know if you can see that or not, pull it down, she's going back into the flesh. Okay? So you've got to look at the offset of your hook, see which way it's, but 9 times out of 10, if you go from left to right, pierce just under the back there, and you can see it going down, it's going away, so you won't miss strikes. This is a good way. If you're fishing, say, like off a jetty or something, if you're off a jetty and you're dropping straight down around a pylon, this is a good way. You can have a sinker sitting on top of him if you like, to put him down and let him just swim. You can let him free swim if you want, depending on where you are, and I wouldn't say off jetties around the pylons, but I'd have a sinker. Drop him straight down, slow controlled drift, let him down, just, okay? And if you're straight up here and dropping the bait down, he's going to like that, and he's going to swim around for hours, he's fine. With the sinker on him, you just sit there and kick, not a problem in the world. The other time I'd use this, like this, is if I was ballooning or putting a float. If I had a live bait under a float, you put him this way. You've got the float up here, you'll send another float like this, and usually swing your float out away from you, out to the channel. Or if you're ballooning off the beach or rocks or something, you want to rig live baits this way, and just let them go and tow the balloon. Okay, so that's when you usually hook them through there. What I see a lot of is people rigging that way. Rigging that way, but they've got like a running sinker rig. So we've got a running sinker rig here. Okay, you got your swivel sinker, single hook. Once again, I'll put it through the right way. They're rigging up like so, all very good. They're casting out into a river where there's a bit of current. Sinker hits the ground, the current's pulling him, he's swimming around like this for quite alright for a little while. He starts getting tired in the current, and all of a sudden he's on his side. And he's trying to swim, then after a while he just dies. He drowns being pulled in the current. And, you know, once again, dies, bit of rigor sets in, gets a bit of a curve in him, then he's out here spinning away like this. And you're up on the jetty or in the boat or on the shore or wherever, waiting for that, you know, striking that big mull away. That's never coming because your bait's out there doing this. He's dead, curled, in the water, not happy. Because they rigged up and they put him in current like this. And he's swimming and he just gets tired and drowned. Once again, if you're fishing in current, even with running sinker rig chasing jewies or something, okay, go back to your snelled hooks. So have your snelled hooks. His nose here, this one pierced down his tail, near his tail, your sinker up here, so your sinker's on the bottom. He'd be sitting there in a current like this, just swimming. So nose into the current, he'd be just sitting there swimming, happy as Larry. He's not being pulled sideways. Okay, and slowly getting tired, dying, rigor mortis sets in, starts to spin. Okay, none of that. And I gotta tell you guys, try and do this up here in the tropics. It stinks. Doesn't take long for these baits to go off. Okay, I hope that helps you. That's the top 3 ways I rig up live baits and for when. 9 times out of 10 when I'm doing this, I'm just using the snelled hook. Remember, put the top one, the one you snelled, through his nose, not through his eyes, but through his nose, and lightly pierce under the skin with the second one, usually the best way. And that way you can have one hook facing one way, the other hook facing the other way, and you very rarely miss strikes. And when there's a bit of current going out, you'll just sit there swimming away in the current quite happily for hours. If you pierce them through the back, they're going to like go to the side, get tired, go to the side, die, start spinning. Okay, and same with piercing under the tail in current. It's all good for a little while where they're swimming around, but where if they're pulling and your line's tight, or they're trying to pull a sinker and there's a bit of current off the bottom, there's a bit of current after a while, he's going to die, get tired, die, curl up and start spinning. It's not going to work. Okay, and same through the top. So they're 3 good ways to rig up live baits, but you just got to think on what's the best one for the circumstances. You're fishing in current, no current, light current, heavy current. What species are you putting under a float? You're putting it on the bottom. Are you letting him free swim? You got to think about it. How you're rigging it up and what you're chasing to pin it properly. Okay. So all 3 of these methods do work under certain circumstances. But the snelled hooks through the nose usually is number 1. That usually works for every way. Okay. Anyway, guys, I've rambled on long enough. That's a long one. Once again, thanks for watching. If you like what I do on the channel, please subscribe if you haven't already. Give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again shortly for another tip.